This June, the Philippines was ranked the least safe country to visit in the world by Canadian travel firm HelloSafe. The company has since taken down the list with an apology. But the damage had been done, as many news outlets carried the story.
The false categorization and the completely unsubstantiated characterization by HelloSafe of the Philippines may have been fake, but its consequences were real.
The debacle comes at an unfortunate time for the Philippines. Its tourism rebound from COVID has been tepid.
The number of tourist arrivals in the Philippines in the last 12 months is around about 55-60% of 2019. So the recovery is very much partial.
Minsan lang talaga, kahit nga minsan ilang araw walang mga foreigner.
With travel booming in other parts of Southeast Asia, why is the archipelago trailing in tourist arrivals?
The traffic is one of the worst I've seen out of all the Asian countries I've been to.
And does it have what it takes to be Asia's leading tourist destination?
If other countries can do it, our country can do it as well.
This is Cebu, in the heart of the Philippine archipelago. It's one of the country's most popular tourist destinations. The island is famous for its stunning beaches and historical landmarks. This souvenir shop sits beside the Mactan Shrine, which marks the first Filipino resistance against the Spaniards.
Since 2019, tapos yung mga binibenta namin, mga ref magnet, tapos mayroon kaming mga necklace, tapos mga wallet, iba-iba, yung mga shot glass, keychain, mga gawa dito sa lahat sa Cebu, sa Lapu-Lapu. October, November, December, marami talaga yung mga bisita, yung mga Koreans. Tapos pag May, June, July, mahina talaga siya.
This year, however, the island is seeing fewer visitors from South Korea. Comparing arrivals from South Korea from January to June, this year's figures are about half of last year's.
Lahat ng business dito, talaga bumaba yung benta. Wala talaga yung nag-akyat. Puro baba talaga. Dati kasi wala pang pandemic, kami ma'am, kita kami ng 16,000 or 20,000 a day, ganon. Tapos ngayon, ang malakas namin 5,000 lang, hanggang ganon, 5,000, 6,000. Buti na lang hindi kami na zero.
Across the Philippines, tourists from South Korea dropped for the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic.
The South Korean market that we attract in the Philippines is quite price sensitive, and the economy of South Korea has experienced some decline because of some political uncertainty. So there was really also a decline in the disposable income of South Koreans.
It hasn't helped that events such as the non-stop calamities that have befallen our island destinations in the past few months have also really affected travel confidence to the country. Of course, we recognize that there have also been isolated incidents that pertain to safety and security.
Overall, South Korean visitors to Southeast Asia are on the dip. But for the Philippines, this hits harder. South Korea is the Philippines' largest tourist market, contributing $2.3 billion to its coffers last year. But even if we look beyond South Korean tourists, the picture is still bleak for the Philippines. Compared to its neighbors, its post-pandemic tourism rebound is the slowest.
If you think back to, let's say, the 5 years before the pandemic, 2015 to 19, tourist arrivals were actually growing really quite strongly to the Philippines. If you were to take kind of 2019 as your anchor point, the last normal year before the pandemic, the number of tourist arrivals in the Philippines in the last 12 months is around about 55-60% of 2019. So the recovery is very much partial. Thailand's about 75%, Singapore about 90%, Malaysia 100%, Vietnam 120% of 2019 levels. So Philippines is really the laggard in terms of its recovery. There's a whole confluence of factors, but the biggest one is Chinese tourists. So the Philippines has failed to attract back Chinese tourists. They're just at 15% of their 2019 levels. A lot of that is due to diplomatic spats between the Philippines and China.
In the last 3 years, tensions between the Philippines and China have heightened over territorial claims in the South China Sea, also called the West Philippines Sea by the Filipinos.
So what we've noted, especially for the Philippines, is that really it's the domestic tourists, the domestic travel that really served as the backbone for tourism recovery.
Even Cambodia, which started later in tourism development, surpassed the Philippines in visitor arrivals last year. This might come as a surprise, since the Philippines was awarded Asia's leading beach destination at the 2024 World Travel Awards. The archipelago should have plenty to draw travelers.
We're talking about here not just natural destinations, not just beach, dive sites. We're talking about here like unique and diverse cultural assets. And the fact that Filipinos can communicate well in English, that's a plus point that we're able to relate and connect with tourists quite easily. Plus, like a genuinely nurturing and caring Filipino brand of hospitality. I think that really what sets us apart.
So, what explains the Philippines' underwhelming tourism figures? Well, even before the pandemic, the country lagged behind regional counterparts. It received less than 10 million visitors a year on average. That's half of Vietnam's total and a quarter of Thailand's. One reason for its low tourist arrivals? Costs. On average, the price of a week-long trip to the Philippines costs $100 to $200 more than a holiday to Vietnam, Indonesia, and Thailand.
I think one thing that needs to be pointed out is that the Philippines is a very isolated destination compared to other destinations in ASEAN, wherein when you land in Thailand, you could easily go to, like Cambodia and Vietnam and all that stuff. So coming here in the Philippines, it's really intentional because you're just flying to the Philippines, right? And it's not just that, it's also you need to fly around to go around the Philippines.
Tourists spend $2,000 on average per trip to the Philippines, which typically lasts 12 days. Apart from flights, meals and hotels can be pricey on more remote islands. This makes it the country with the second highest tourism spending per capita in Southeast Asia, after Singapore.
So in, for instance, Malaysia, Thailand, you have a lot of short cross-border low-cost trips from within ASEAN or even backpackers, etc. In the Philippines, it's more geared towards kind of long 2-week holidays, and that's why the spend is higher. It's not necessarily a sign of strength, though. It just means that they're limiting themselves to a certain pool of visitors.
It's because they don't want this house to be totally abandoned, and until now, privately owned.
For the Philippines, there is much at stake in wooing those tourists back.
The tourism sector in the Philippines is a lifeline for very many Filipinos, nearly 7 million to be exact. That is the number of Filipinos that directly benefit from tourism. Indirectly, there are over 16.4 million Filipinos that are able to benefit from the tourism industry. The contribution of tourism to our economy is at 8.9% of our GDP, and its ability to provide stable livelihood is one that is reinvigorating our local economies in destinations all over the country.
Malungkot kasi pag maraming turista, ano man kami, may benta man. Pero pag wala, na lang, kunti-kunti lang talaga. Mayroon din mga ma'am, ibang turista na kahit local lang, bumibili din sila. Pero iba talaga yung mga Koreans.
The Philippines can be an expensive travel destination for some. Still, with so much beauty and culture, what else is holding tourists back from flying there?
The forward door is now open. You may now deplane.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Making moment. Have a good Thank you.
We just landed back in Manila from Dubai. That was a 10-hour flight. So now we are going through immigration and then going to baggage claim to get our check-in luggage. Let's see how long it will take. So we got all of our luggage actually under 20 minutes. That was actually pretty quick. That's probably the fastest time ever. Arriving here at Terminal 3.
Manila's Ninoy Aquino International Airport, or NAIA, has a reputation as one of the world's worst airports. Frequent traveller Mikey Federis has seen it all.
So the first time I came back a few years ago, I arrived at Terminal 1 Airport, traveling from California to Manila. It was a direct flight, so it was a very long flight, like 14-hour flight. And I was tired. I wanted to get to my hotel, but immigration took a long time. I'd say about 45 minutes to an hour just to get through immigration. And then finally, when we get through immigration, and I'm not joking, my luggage was the last one to get out of the conveyor belt. It was almost 2.5 hours for my luggage to come out of the conveyor belt.
For many visitors, NAIA, or Manila Airport, is their first introduction to the country. Yet, in a 2024 study of 61 major airports by Australian price monitoring firm Compare the Market, NAIA placed last. The list ranks airports based on accessibility, efficiency, and cleanliness.
The Philippines' first problem is it's starting from a difficult position. It's an archipelago. It's a collection of islands. It's difficult to travel around. They rely on flights for connectivity, but the airport infrastructure is lagging most peers in Southeast Asia and the world. So at the moment, flights rely on a bit of a hub and spoke model. So lots of flights fly into Manila and then go somewhere else. That's quite inefficient. It snares up a lot of traffic within Manila's airport, and lots of people pass through there that don't need to. And people can't fly directly to the places that they want to visit, which really massively extends journey times.
I don't think Manila Airport is the worst. I think it's just Manila Airport needs to upgrade its facilities and its infrastructure, because I don't think it can handle that amount of travelers when it was built decades ago.
Connectivity is another issue. A total of 58 airlines offer direct international flights to the Philippines, the lowest among Southeast Asia's 6 largest economies. And getting to tourist hotspots like Boracay usually require transfers.
Because we are not projecting for future demand. We're actually in the present. We're just fulfilling what is the current travel needs. So take, for example, our island destinations like Boracay, Siargao. The airports are really just too small, too cramped that people will have to stand to wait for their turn, to wait for their departures. So I think it's quite a challenge, knowing also that the place is small, okay, because they cannot expand, because like in Batanes, there is a special skill that pilots need to have. Otherwise, you'll ram through the mountain, right? So there are also natural constraints that we need to guard against.
If the infrastructure is bad, it puts people off because it takes a lot longer to travel to this place. So if I'm deciding on whether to sit on a beach in Malaysia versus the Philippines, if it takes me 2 hours to get to Malaysia but 8 hours to get to Boracay, then it's obvious which one you're going to choose.
Getting through the Philippines airports is just the start of the ordeal. Getting out of them is another. Out of 501 cities in 2024's TomTom Traffic Index, Manila has the 14th longest average travel time, 32 minutes and 10 seconds, just to cover 10 kilometers.
The traffic is one of the worst I've seen out of all the Asian countries I've been to. There are rush hour times, usually like in the morning, and then if you're leaving in the evening, I would say try to avoid 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. because that's when all the people in Manila are going back home and taking the jeepneys, taking the public transportation to go back home, and so all the streets are crowded.
Jeepneys are a modification of open-air combat vehicles left behind by the Americans after the Second World War. There are nearly 200,000 of them across the country, mostly used for public transport.
Lalo na pagdating sa traditional, number one talaga yung pagkukos ng traffic kasi ayaw nila na experience ko yan. Hindi ko itinatanggi. Ginawa ko rin yan.
Jeepney drivers may stop anywhere passengers flag them down. Many of them also ply the same routes. Sometimes drivers wait by the roadside for passengers, all of which worsens congestion. Freddy Hernandez used to drive one.
Ayaw kong ma-overtaken ako nung nasa likuran ko mga jeep. Ang tingin ko sa kanila kasi competitor kalaban sa daan. So ayaw kong ma-overtaken nila. So ang ginagawa ko na parada, imbis na sa tabi, medyo alangan rin sa gitna para wag maka-overtake. Walang maka-overtake. Hindi ako lahat ng madadaan ng pasahero makukuha ko. Yun ang cause ng traffic.
Now Hernandez manages a fleet of electric minibuses in Taguig City. Since 2017, the government has attempted to phase out jeepneys, 15 years old or older. It's part of the public transportation modernization program, which plans to replace traditional jeepneys with more efficient and environmentally friendly vehicles. The program is also looking at designating bus stops and mapping out routes on mobile apps.
Pero ayun nga, nung sinusulong na yung modernization, ang ginagawa na ngayon ng government, gusto na nila, sahuran na yung mga driver. Kaya wala na yung iniisip na kailangan ko ng makakota, kailangan ko ng yung mga ganun, wala na ganun ngayon.
For now, jeepneys remain the most common and most used form of public transport in the Philippines. The problem is, they're not very tourist-friendly.
Confusing yun. Yun lang yung challenge kasi siguro kung nasanay sila sa ibang bansa or sa bansa na pinanggalingan nila, meron doon talagang specific na loading tsaka unloading bay. Dito kasi wala Kung saan ka lang pwedeng pumara, pwede na Ganon ang nangyayari dito. Wala talagang nakalagay na pwede kang sumakay dito, bawal ka sumakay dito, wala dito sa atin sa Pilipinas.
So, and just learning the culture, I think it's going to be a bit difficult because you need to be aware that you have to pay with cash. Usually you have to pay with the exact change, or else if you pay with 1,000 peso bill, they most likely will not have the change for you, right? And also to understanding the system, like where are they traveling to, because they basically just have one single route, and understanding that they're stopping at any point.
Even in the Philippines' popular tourist spots like Cebu, getting around isn't easy.
Mass transportation is not great here, so that's why there are transport companies and tour companies helping the travelers to get to their destinations.
This tour agency opened in 2018, offering tours in the city and the south of the island. Most of their customers come from the United States, Australia, and the United Kingdom.
Cebu is mostly known for our adventure activities like whale sharks, the Moalboal Sardines Run, and the Kawasan Falls Canyoneering. In the city, we bring them to the historical sites, so like Magellan's Cross, Basilica del Santo Niño, and then the Cebu Heritage Monument, Yap San Diego Ancestral House. The top destinations are far from the city, so it's about 2 to 3 hours without traffic. But if there's traffic, it can go as high as 5 hours.
A source of frustration for tourists. How is the Philippines trying to overcome its infrastructure woes?
has a lot of places to
27-year-old Mark Joshua Aruga from the Batangas province started posting travel videos on social media in 2018.
I decided to post my content because after traveling all the 82 provinces, firsthand I experienced the beauty of our country. Because of it, I want to inspire, I want to help my viewers and encourage them to exploring all the 82 provinces.
5 game-changing habits I quit to travel all 82 provinces on a budget.
Usually, my videos includes like travel tips, places to visit in the Philippines, not just in Luzon but in Visayas and in Mindanao as well. Then I also have like activities to try for each destination.
Last year, the number of domestic trips across the Philippines hit a record 134 million. Joshua makes it a point to travel around his country every year. But his biggest challenge, even as a local, transportation.
So there would be time that you need to take air transportation or sea transportation. I have experienced really challenges that it may took a day before I reach my destination, and I would say that it's in Northern Samar, which is Biri Island. So I need to do land for I think 10 hours, then another ferry for 2 hours, then another land and another ferry. So I think they can still improve those transportation, but I would say that I really enjoyed all my experiences in traveling all the 82 provinces.
But infrastructure upgrades are in the works. Last year, NAIA was privatized. An investment of 122 billion pesos or $2 billion is expected to go into the modernization program in hopes that it will double the airport's passenger capacity.
Recognizing the 99% dependency of the Philippines on international air travel, the Department of Tourism has worked very closely with the Department of Transportation as well as our international aviation industry to be able to increase the number of direct flights coming into the country. The result of this work has yielded very encouraging new flights coming into the Philippines.
1 year on, NAIA has added new domestic and international routes with 47 airlines. 7.7 billion pesos have also been allocated to upgrade 15 other airports in this year's budget. A new international airport is also being built just north of Manila. Covering 2,500 hectares, the new Manila International Airport will be one of the world's largest. However, there are worries that it sits on unstable land. The progress of other projects has also raised concerns.
The Philippines business environment is not necessarily conducive to getting big, complex infrastructure projects delivered on time and on budget. There's a lot of seepage in terms of corruption and poor governance. So much will depend on whether they're able to deliver those projects up to spec and on time.
Airlines have to have service routes, but at the same time, it waits for government also to probably provide tax breaks or tax incentives so that they can provide those service routes. It's chicken and egg, no? Which comes first? Do we put the flights there so that demand will follow, or our airlines will say, have the demand first so we can put more flights? That's where government subsidy comes in, which we don't do. We do not have the resources to subsidize our private stakeholders so that there can be more access points to the destination. So that remains a challenge.
As for easing traffic in Manila, a second metro rail transit line is slated to complete in 2 years. The 33-kilometer Metro Manila subway is also expected to launch in 2029 with a branch line to NAIA. Over in Cebu, a test run for the bus rapid transit or BRT system launched this September. It was introduced to reduce traffic congestion and air pollution in the city.
So it's planned to actually be 13 kilometers, but right now what's done is just the phase 1. It's from the South Cebu bus terminal to the Fuente Osmeña, which is about 2 kilometers. So far, it's a short route. And also, because not all phases have been implemented. If it's a longer route, say from northern Cebu to southern Cebu, then now to say like Oslob, then it will be even better for tourists and be easier to go around Cebu.
Phase 1 is 90% completed, while the full 35-kilometre route is projected to be done by 2030. Funding by the World Bank, though, has been withdrawn due to persistent delays.
If we are able to put things into good use and tourism infrastructure is prioritized with decisions that are given by objective individuals instead of making it political on who is close to the decision makers, then I think we would have a more deliberate development as far as tourism is concerned.
Apart from upgrading tourism infrastructure, the government is also looking to develop sustainable tourism. For example, one program has awarded over 250 million pesos in grants to 15 local government units for sustainable tourism projects.
So sustainable tourism, I think in the most simplistic terms, right? It's about making sure that tourism activities don't just create or promote profit or economic activities, but also make sure that it accounts for the benefits that it brings to people and the environment. So if we look at it in a more practical sense, here we're looking at when we invest in sustainability, we actually invest on the destination's marketability, not just at present, but also in the future.
Here in Pamilacan Island, south of Bohol Island, locals once hunted dolphins and whales for a living. The practice was banned in the 2000s to protect wildlife. Now, the marine animals are a tourism draw.
Marami kami pinagdadaan ng training para magiging guide. Kami, may taga-DOT nagpupunta dito, tinuruan kami kung paano mag-encounter sa mga dolphins at saka whales. Nasasaktan din ako para doon sa mga dating ang hanap buhay nila ay ganon dito. Pero dapat rin nilang maintindihan na yung mga ginagawa nila hindi talaga masustain yung pagdami ng mga whales at saka yung dolphins at saka yung whale sharks dito sa lugar namin. Kasi huli lang sila ng huli, hindi naman nila alam kung ano yung kahinatnan doon, kung pinagpatuloy ba nila yun hanggang ngayon ay nandyan pa ba, may mahuhuli pa ba sila.
Tourism has become the main source of income for the 200-some families living on the island.
Marami talaga yung nakikinabang kasi kahit hindi naman sila local tour guide, kahit hindi sila snorkeling guide, pwede naman silang magbibenta ng mga souvenirs, pwede silang yung mga ibang mga babae dito, tinitrain din sila kung paano mag-massage. Tapos yung iba, nagtitinda ng mga kagaya ng mga buko. Basta kahit pa paano may kinikita pa rin naman. Parang kung kumpara mo sa dati at saka ngayon, mas maganda para sa akin ang hanap buhay namin ngayon. Basta lang iingatan namin yung kung ano yung mga resources na meron kami dito. Yung hindi talaga namin aabusuhin kung anong meron kami para sa mga bisita namin na mas lalo pa silang maa-attract na magpunta dito sa amin.
This was until the pandemic hit. Like other parts of the Philippines, tourism in Pamilacan Island has lagged pre-COVID levels.
Dati, kaya namin yung sa isang buwan, siguro may time na aabot ng mga 500 o sa isang buwan. Ngayon, iwan ko lang kung aabot pa ba kami ng 100 sa isang buwan. Parang medyo mahirap ngayon. Sa ngayon, papaunti na rin yung guide na natitira. Medyo matagal na namang nakalipas yung pandemic. Baka nakabawi na rin yung mga turista natin. Kapunta na ulit sila dito.
So there is a lot riding on these investments that are supposed to help the tourism industry rebound. After all, the government is expecting the sector to employ 34 million Filipinos by 2028. That's 5 times more than last year's total.
Overall, the effort is to be able to ensure that tourism is not measured by a single number alone, but rather by the value that it brings to our tourism destinations and our tourism stakeholders, and the experiences and purposeful travel that it is able to provide to those that visit us. It is our hope that by way of this comprehensive approach towards tourism development that rests on collaboration, partnership, and the upliftment of our communities as a whole, that tourism can continue to be as reliable a source of livelihood as it can be, notwithstanding all of the challenges and calamities that have come upon our shores.
With headwinds from infrastructure upgrades and slow post-COVID recovery, how can the Philippines market itself as an attractive tourist destination? This seafood restaurant opened in Cebu in 1993. It serves Filipino specialties like tinola and kinilaw.
Dahil matagal na din kasi itong sutukil eh. Matagal na siya yung mga seafoods, yung mahilig sa seafoods po. Kaya gusto ito ng mga foreigner dito kasi malapit lang kami sa dagat. At saka may plaza na din sa tabi namin, yung lapu-lapu na plaza. Mayroon po kami mga Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Taiwanese, mga American, mayroon ding mga Russian, Malaysian, halo-halo po.
Since the pandemic, however, business has slowed.
Dati po, sa isang araw, tanghali pa lang, mayroon na kaming mga 20 groups na customers. Tanghali pa lang po yan. Tapos hanggang gabi po, additional naman po. Madami talaga, marami kami ding waiting. At least naghihintay din naman po sila. Last year, nag-start na yun na bumababa na yung mga customer. Tapos ngayong taon na talaga, mahinang-mahina na talaga.
A big reason for the Philippines' tepid tourism recovery is the loss of one of its largest markets. Around 300,000 Chinese tourists arrived on Philippine shores last year. This falls far below the Department of Tourism's 2024 target of 2 million, which matches pre-COVID numbers.
Because of geopolitical tensions with China, tensions over the South China Sea, Chinese arrivals are not coming back to the Philippines and probably unlikely to do so anytime soon. And China, being the largest, most popular country in Asia, is the main source of tourists for the region.
Previously, Chinese citizens could apply for short-stay visas for work or travel to the Philippines electronically. But 2 years ago, the e-visas were suspended due to the involvement of Chinese nationals in criminal activities at Philippine offshore gaming hubs. The program only resumed last month.
Dati yung kaibahan ng kita namin, sa isang araw, kumikita kami ng 100,000, kumpara ngayon na nasa 3,000 na lang, 4,000, 5,000, ganun na po ang diferensya. Malaki po yung kaibahan.
While the Department of Tourism hopes the e-visa reinstatement will boost Chinese visitor numbers, it's also putting its eggs in other baskets. Since June, Indian nationals have been allowed visa-free entry to the Philippines. Air India started operating direct flights from Delhi to Manila since October.
I think it's a clever move to give direct flights and visa-free entry for India. India is going to be the fastest growing major economy in the world over the next 5-10 years. And Indian nationals face quite a lot of barriers when they go on holiday abroad. Generally, the Philippines doesn't have very high visa barriers to tourists, and it has upgraded to e-visas as well, which makes things a lot easier.
There is also a large market to tap in Southeast Asia itself. The largest share of visitor arrivals in Southeast Asia comes from other Southeast Asian states. Intra-regional travel made up 45% of international arrivals last year, up from 37% in 2019. However, of this number, the Philippines ranks 9th out of the 10 countries in attracting fellow Southeast Asians. Malaysia tops the list.
It's a competitive market in Southeast Asia, especially for internal tourism. The big place really is Indonesia. If you're talking about young and growing middle classes, Indonesia is that. Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, less so these days. So that's kind of the market you would need to focus on as the Philippines if you want to attract tourists, and they should leverage their strengths in, for instance, Muslim or halal-friendly tourism, also in providing a range of options for maybe more kind of low-cost or mid-cost options. The Philippines has got the kind of highest spend per head of many of the ASEAN nations, and that really just reflects that it doesn't have as many of those kind of medium and low-cost options for travellers.
For now, there is still scepticism over the Philippines' tourism rebound.
Unfortunately, we don't think that the tourism sector in the Philippines will see a lot of growth, at least in the next year, because of its relationship with China, which meant that Chinese tourists haven't come back. And that's unlikely to change. Perhaps in 2028, if you get a change of administration and Sara Duterte becomes president and she pivots back to China like her father did as the previous president, you might see a change. But until then, probably not. In terms of short-term measures, it might be a PR and marketing kind of question, being able to encourage travellers to choose the Philippines.
Which brings us back to the flawed list we mentioned at the beginning that had the Philippines as the least safe country to visit. While the publisher has admitted the ranking is erroneous, it does point to a challenge facing Filipino tourism, how the country is perceived abroad.
Filipinos, we are one of the most active users of social media. And that being said, we post user-generated content that speaks about negative things about the Philippines. And so multiply that many times over. One crime committed here is multiplied so many times in social media. And so people think we're a dangerous place.
One such incident occurred in April, in a robbery involving Korean tourists.
Nandito po tayo ngayon sa harap ng Apple Massage, dito po sa Friendship Highway, Barangay Malabanya, Angeles City po. Dito po nangyari yung nag-viral na hold up at nabaril na Korean national dito po sa area namin. Based po dun sa naging investigation nila, accordingly po, galing po sa pagpapamassage yung Korean national. Then paglabas niya po ma'am dito sa daan na to, parang may nakaabang na po na mga riding in tandem, and yung isa po doon, yung back rider, bumaba po, hinablot po yung, tinry pong kunin yung bag ng Korean nationals, pero dahil po parang nag-resist po si Korean national. Nung nag-resist po, doon po parang na-trigger yung rubber at binaril niya po yung, nabaril niya po yung.
This incident is one of a spate of violent crimes against tourists in the Philippines this year. South Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has put out a notice to warn its citizens to take safety precautions. The Japanese embassy has also advised its citizens to avoid walking outside at night.
Based on our latest record from January 10 to date, we documented 5 incidents involving foreign nationals here in Angeles City, 3 of whom were South Korean nationals. These include cases of qualified theft, reckless imprudence resulting in homicide, and theft. And I'm glad to report that all of these cases has been resolved and appropriate charges have already been filed, now undergoing trial in court.
The tourism department is now expanding its Korean language program for police officers.
Most of our tourists here is Koreans. So one of our strategy is to study Koreans to prevent language barrier. The training has been instrumental in building trust and quick response mechanism. Koreans who previously hesitated to report crimes now approach the police freely, knowing they will be understood.
Over 8,000 cops located in popular tourist spots have been trained since the course started last year. As for Hello Safe, the company has since taken down the list and published an apology.
The false categorization and the completely unsubstantiated characterization by Hello Safe of the Philippines may have been fake, but its consequences were real. It was deeply felt across our destinations, and the impact of that on travel confidence resulted in cancellations as well as a very negative connotation of the Philippines as a whole. And that is why we're working as hard as we can to communicate to the rest of the world that the Philippines is a safe destination.
This wouldn't be the last of the bad press for the Philippines, however. This September, a report by an investment and hedge fund manager ranked the Philippines as the country with the lowest return of investment on tourism in the region. The study found that the Duterte and Marcos Jr. administrations invested $23 billion in tourism, yet only $13 billion was generated in revenue last year. The government disagrees.
As a matter of fact, data shows that for every peso invested in Philippine tourism, there is a 5.50 peso return. This, notwithstanding that the Philippines is being outspent by its neighbors anywhere from 3 to 8 times more as far as tourism promotions is concerned. This also speaks to the strength of Philippine tourism as a whole. That notwithstanding the challenges and the trials that it faces, all the headwinds that have come to pass, we're still here.
We can't seem to erase that negative image of in the past terrorism, now it's the drug war, the geopolitical tensions with other countries. So we need to be able to rally the Filipino people to make our image abroad to be positive. The image is everything, actually.
YouTube channel Black Cookies Production is trying to change such negative impressions of the Philippines. This year, they started posting man-on-the-street interviews with foreigners.
It's very interesting because most of their answers, they usually say it's safe. They feel safe here in our country.
I feel safe. We walked around yesterday at night, and compared to the other countries we've been to, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, it was pretty safe.
Do you guys feel safe in the Philippines or in Manila? I'd say 90%.
I understand because sometimes news can go to an extent where it's really explosive and it's all the headlines. Oh, this happened and it's really bad. So maybe some or most people think it's really like that in all the place, but in reality it's not.
So, you know, lots of Southeast Asia is suffering with a kind of a PR problem. It's a common problem across Southeast Asia, right? Cambodia and Thailand have obviously now had a conflict, and there's the issue of scam centers. So the Philippines is not the only one in this boat, and I suppose the only glimmer of hope is that perhaps it can be that marginal destination that tourists that were planning to go to Cambodia or were planning to go to Thailand might instead choose the Philippines.
This year, the Department of Tourism expects the sector to generate 2.7 trillion pesos, or $45 billion, and employ 6.8 million Filipinos, a slight jump from last year. Whether it can unlock its potential and catch up on its regional rivals could depend on how it sells the Philippines to those international travelers and the experience they have when they get there.
When you go abroad, you would always say, sana it's like that here in the Philippines. We always aspire to make things better. And I'm seeing that there are developments being made. But I hope the developments will come faster. Probably if we put our resources into good use and there's no corruption going around, then we can have world-class facilities like our Southeast Asian neighbors.
Philippines is a really beautiful country. We already have everything. We have the tropical beaches, we have plenty of cultures, history to explore, and we just have to do more in maybe catering or marketing our country in a better way, specifically with transportation, also beautifying all the streets in every city, because if other countries can do it, our country can do it as well.